Let's be real, the world of crypto trading feels like absolute chaos, right? It's all flashing numbers, wild price swings, and just so much noise. But what if I told you there's a clear playbook to cut through all of that? Well, today, we're going to distill the insights from some really seasoned traders to build exactly that, a simple, strategic guide to the crypto markets.
So let's just start with the big, brutal question. Why is it that the vast majority of people who jump into crypto trading end up losing money? I mean, 90% is a staggering number, but the answer isn't about bad luck, and it's not about missing some secret indicator. It actually boils down to a fundamental choice you have to make in how you approach the market.
And this right here frames the entire problem. On one side, you have emotional gambling. This is the default mode for most people, you know. It's chasing coins that are already shooting for the moon, panic selling the second the price dips, and basically living on this insane roller coaster of fear and greed. But on the other side, you've got what we're talking about today, strategic trading. This is all about having a system, managing your risk, and most importantly, acting on a plan you made beforehand, no matter how noisy it gets.
This brings us to the first core principle from our experts. And honestly, it's a game changer. It's this idea that if you can master just one asset, the rest of the market just kind of opens up to you. And that one single asset, the key to the whole game, is Bitcoin.
You know, the traders we're drawing from, they have this awesome term for Bitcoin, Da Bing, which literally means the big pie. And it's not just a cute nickname, it's an entire philosophy. It means that Bitcoin is the market. It sets the trend, it dictates where everything is going. And every other coin, from Ethereum down to the smallest altcoin, is just a slice of that pie, following its lead. So here's the takeaway. Your number one job is to analyze the big pie.
Okay, so that leads us to the second principle. If Bitcoin sets the trend for the whole market, then trying to scalp tiny profits day in and day out is just a losing game. You're going to get chopped to pieces by all that random volatility. The real, life-changing money, according to these traders, comes from one thing: identifying a major trend started by Bitcoin and just riding it.
But hey, talk is cheap, right? So let's look at a concrete example of how they actually put this into practice. This case study on a Solana trade is the perfect illustration of how that big pie principle and trend following all come together.
So here's exactly how it went down. On September 7th, they saw Bitcoin, the big pie, showing some real signs of strength at a key level. That was it. That was their signal. Notice, it wasn't a signal on the Solana chart, it was a Bitcoin signal. Based on that alone, they jumped into a long position on Solana at $199, added a little more at 204 when it looked like the move was for real, and then they just held on. They let the bigger trend do the work. Simple, systematic, and all triggered by the big pie.
But how? How are they able to just hold on through all the ups and downs without panicking? Well, it all comes down to how they manage their risk. Now, they use leverage, yeah, but not the crazy 100x or 125x you see all over the place. Their go-to level was 50x, and the reason for that is all about psychology.
And this is so crucial. Your position size, and that includes your leverage, it directly controls your emotional state. It's that simple. If you go in with super high leverage, every tiny little price swing feels like a heart attack, which triggers fear and panic and makes you ditch your plan. But by using lower leverage and a smarter position size, you stay calm. You can actually ride out the normal waves and stick with the trade long enough to catch the real move. You have to control your position if you want to control your mind.
But look, this kind of discipline, it wasn't just learned from a book. It was forged in the fire of a nearly catastrophic mistake. Let me walk you through a personal story from one of these traders that completely shaped their most important rule.
It all started with a classic mistake. They went long on a trade using 100x leverage. But then the market turned against them. And instead of just cutting the loss quickly, they held on, hoping, praying it would turn back around. And then the plunge came. They had bought Ethereum at over $3,400. The market didn't just dip, it absolutely cratered, crashing all the way down to $850. With 100x leverage, that's a total wipeout. Complete liquidation was just moments away.
They somehow barely survived that trade, but it taught them a lesson they will never, ever forget. And it's this: a stop loss is not a suggestion. It is a non-negotiable rule. Once you set it, you never, ever move it further down just because you feel like the market might come back. That hope, that's what liquidates accounts. Period. And this whole idea perfectly illustrates the insane power of patience and discipline. It reminds me of the legend of BitKing in the Chinese crypto community. This trader supposedly turned about 10,000 RMB into 170 million in just 18 months. And here's the wild part. He did it with only 10 trades. 10! And 3 of them were losers. It's the ultimate proof that you don't need to be trading every single day. You just need patience, high conviction, and the discipline to ride a few huge trends.
So with this whole strategy in mind, where do they see things going from here? Well, based on their analysis of the broader trend, the one set by Bitcoin, these are their pretty conservative price targets for the year. They see Bitcoin hitting 150,000, which would pull Ethereum up to the $7,000 to $8,000 range, and see Solana breaking its old high of 260. Now, obviously, this isn't financial advice, but for them, this is the destination that's worth waiting for. This is the profitable end of that long-term trend they're determined to ride. And all of this brings us to one final thought. We're constantly bombarded with this idea that trading is about frantic action, right? Being glued to the screen, making dozens of moves. But the playbook we've just walked through suggests the complete opposite. It suggests that real wealth isn't built on frantic action, but on profound patience. So the question is, which path are you on?